creature, tiny as a palm of a hand, sits on the precipice of a cavity in the trunk of a tree. Her name is Maki, and she is part of an elusive fey species known as the Memegwaan. Her head looks rather like an acorn, and she has a spherical body wrapped in little white feathers. Her stubby arms and legs are short but nimble. As she sits, she faces out towards the autumnal forest. The environment is reminiscent of a fire with warm, mottled hues of red and oranges and browns, a symbol of the turning season. Even in the bewitching Feywilds, the oncoming winter looms ominously on the horizon. A chill breeze combs through the sparse trees and caresses Maki's face, sending blooms of pink blush to her cheeks. A shiver shoots through her body like electricity, and she turns and leaps into the little hole in the tree. Inside is a homely sort of nest. Golden balls of mage light the size of thumbnails decorate the walls. On one end of the circular abode is a comfortable-looking pile of maple leaves. On the other side is a large chest, or large for a Memegwaan at any rate. Maki plonks her feet down inside the house and waddles her way over to the chest. With a big push from the small creature, the lid creaks open to reveal little berries, tufts of moss, and a little hang glider masterfully fashioned from sticks and leaves. From her waist, she opens a linen rucksack and pulls out her special find for the day, an egg. Maki knew that the pixies are mischievous creatures by nature, but finding a rainbow scaly egg in one of their nests seemed a little too troublesome for her liking. She was determined to return the egg to its parent. She had not, however, anticipated the thing's weight. It exhausted her quickly, and she resolved to return to her nest for the night and continue her quest the next day. Maki hoists the egg out of the sack with all of her strength and, as gently as she can, sets it inside the chest. She sighs, and a tuft of steam escapes her mouth like a tiny smoke signal. She gently closes the lid of the chest. The egg only just fits perfectly inside. Then she spins on her heel and trots across the room to her bed. As she moves, she flicks her wrist so that each ball of mage light is extinguished. Gracefully, the little Memegwaan leaps and submerges herself into the pile of leaves. She adjusts her position so that she lays comfortably, and quickly sleep claws at her brain and sends it into her deep embrace. The sound throws Maki back into reality like a rag doll. She peers out of her warm cocoon and surveys her shadowy hovel. Nothing moves. She sighs, thinking that she must have just imagined it, and immerses herself into her bed once more. She stands up, this time with more certainty. A maple leaf balances precariously on her head. She stands and waiting. Her foot taps impatiently on the ground. The chest on the other end of the room shakes with each bang, and Maki's eyes grow wide and she lets out a little eep. Cautiously, she steps out of her nest, the leaf still resting on her head, and she tiptoes a crack across the room to the chest. Maki's breathing quickens, her hands tremble a little. She creeps closer to the chest. She places her hand on either side of the lid. She takes a deep breath and throws the lid open. Inside holds the most peculiar thing that Maki has ever seen. A tiny dragon, about the same size as Maki, stretches its long neck from the opening of the chest. Its scales reflect an iridescent gold and pink glow, and it is dripping with a faintly yellow ooze that pools in the sections of the cracked egg. As quickly as it cranes its neck upwards, it quickly shoots back down with a loud achoo, and a billow of black smoke escapes its nose and floats away. The leaf on Maki's head is blown away by the sneeze. She stares in awe at the creature, and the dragon matches her gaze. She tilts her head to the side quizzically, and the dragon follows her like a puppet. The Memegwaan takes a steadying breath and reaches her short arm out towards the dragon's head. Without a second thought, the dragon nestles its snout into Maki's palm. She lets out a little giggle, and the dragon makes a strange, strangled sound that Maki assumes to be one born from excitement. As the sun rears its bright head over the horizon and sends beams of light shooting into the Feywild forest, the Memegwaan and the dragon become quickly acquainted. Mackie learns that the dragon seems to greatly appreciate the scratches on the back of its head, and she finds out that it is a boy, and she decides to name it Magua. By the time morning reaches its full bloom, Magua's head lays in Mackie's lap while she absently strokes his neck. A huge roar erupts like a bomb and echoes through the forest, shaking the soil. Magua's head bolts upright and every muscle in Mackie's body freezes like ice. The enormous sound rattles the very roots of the trees. Through the opening in the tree hole, Mackie watches hundreds of birds flee their nest and leaves fall from their branches. The noise fades and the trees start to flutter with increasing vigor. Like a statue, Mackie watches as a colossal dragon soars above the canopy of trees, shaking the earth beneath it with each huge flap of its wings. Magua jumps up and runs to the edge of the hole in the tree. His head follows the direction of the larger dragon's flight. He desperately flaps his wings to no avail, and he falls after lifting himself only a few inches. He looks at Mackie, who feels as though she has been turned completely to stone. Magua runs over to the Memegwaan and nudges her arm. She feels life pour through her veins, and suddenly she makes a very nervous chirp and leaps to her feet. She waddles across the room as quickly as she can and dives into her pile of leaves. Magua grunts in annoyance. Mackie, her heart still pounding, peeps out. He stares intensely at her and then gestures with his head outside. The realization dawns on Mackie that must be the little dragon's parent. She takes a steadying breath and emerges from her leaf cave, much to Magua's delight. She shakily creeps over to the hole in the wall and looks out at the beautiful forest swimming in reds and browns. The silhouette of the dragon disappears beyond the horizon. She looks to Magua and then to the forest, and she narrows her eyebrows determinedly. With sudden strength, she marches over to the chest and swings it open. She reaches in and pulls out her hang glider, which Magua looks at with glee. She inspects it carefully, ensuring that it is still in working order. Then she stamps back over to the hole where Magua is and gets the thing into position. She gestures for Magua to hold onto her feet, and he wraps his little claws around her ankles. She releases a deep breath. She calculates exactly how far she will need to leap forward. Then she jumps. For a moment, the pair plummet towards the ground. Then the hang glider catches the air, and suddenly they are soaring soundly, Magua dangling below Mackie. The pair glide up and down through the canopy of trees, around branches and above bird nests who watch them in wonder. After some time of soaring through the autumnal forest, Mackie suddenly feels the weight of the dragon release from her legs. The weight change sends the hang glider flying upwards, and Mackie's head shoots around in every direction, desperately searching for her friend. Then, as though by magic, Magua appears next to Mackie, flapping his wings with such intensity that they look like they're about to fall off. Nonetheless, he manages to fly in tow with Mackie, and the two of them glide side by side. The sky turns to shades of purples and pinks, and the afternoon sun glistens golden speckles off the lake that the dragon and the Memegwaan fly over. Before them, they can see a clearing where the tree line stops and a circular field starts. As they get even closer, they can see what makes Mackie's heart sink and the Magua flap with greater intensity. The colossal dragon sitting on a rock. The pair slow their flying and descend towards the field. There are hundreds of rocks speckled around like freckles, and an elf and an aarakocra stand just before the beast. Mackie's feet touch the soft grass, and she releases her hang glider, much to the relief of her cramping hands. Magua flies ahead and lands just behind the elf and the aarakocra. They both spin in surprise at the sound. The huge dragon cranes its neck down to look at the tiny creature and lets out a strange cry of delight. Mackie stands back from the scene, determined to remain an observer, but the elf spots her and comes running over. Mackie feels her heart pound again. Hello, little creature. My name is Erwin. What's yours? The sound seems to echo around Mackie's skull, and she was sure she didn't see the elf's mouth move. What's more, elves shouldn't be able to speak the Memegwaan tongue. My name is Mackie, she squeaks back, and the elf's face spreads into a huge smile. She lowers her hand to the ground and Mackie climbs onto her palm. She lifts the tiny creature and places her on her shoulder. Did you help this dragon find his way home? Erwin asks, walking back over to where the dragons were standing. I did, she squeaks again, nervous to say anything more. You have a good heart, Mackie. I think that you and I should become good friends. Erwin turns her head and beams at the little creature. Mackie feels her heart lift, and she decides that Erwin is right. They will become good friends.